So yes, our next speaker, John Lucis Vincent, master of all things DevOpsian and monitoring in nature. Anything else I should cover? Yeah, what is your talk? So in case you haven't noticed the recurring theme, I have absolutely no idea what our speakers are talking about today. This actually worked out really well. I just figured, okay, I get the most brilliant minds I could, at least that I know, get them together in a room and let them talk for 30 minutes. And on a serious note, though, I think it actually worked out very well because as a speaker, I'm constantly changing my mind on what I want to talk about as the event approaches. So literally, I'm getting slides in at 3 a.m. in the morning this morning. And that's I'm okay with that because at least now we have people that are talking about what they want to talk about. So I think it's pretty cool. Let me just get your display set up.
Even better, I don't know what I'm talking about. So.
It's fantastic, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you need the clipper?
Well, since I don't have a mic, I can't roam. So.
Okay. We actually have Laurels if you want a mic.
No, I'm just normally a roamer. So,
right.
hey, why is that? Oh, whoa, why is it playing? Oh, you guys are getting... Stop, stop. Sorry. Oh, great. You saw my first 3 slides. Fuck it. It's just enter full screen.
Do you know when? Oh, you went. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad. Sorry, man. All right. Yes, John Vincent, everyone.
Hi. This slide originally had a picture of Jerry Seinfeld, and I thought, well, it didn't quite fit, so I'll take that out. But yeah, Jason brought up a good point about, what are we talking about? And I find it interesting that my talk is pretty much going to parrot the last how many talks we've had because I think we all see the same problems. But before I go into this, I want to say one thing. This is probably the most intimidating talk I have ever done. This audience is filled with my peers who are smarter than me, so that's really freaking me out. The other speakers, it's amazing, and I am humbled to be here, and I want to thank Jason for asking me to talk. This is from the main page. It says, I'm not going to read it all out, but the highlighted part, talks from leading open source developers and web operations luminaries. So thought leaders. So this is a list of the people that are going to be talking and doing things. You've heard from some of these already. I want to overlay a little bit of information. So, John Oswald is John Oswald, right? So Mike is an actual fucking scientist. Jordan wrote all of the software that we use. It's that simple. So you can see that these people are pretty, really intimidating. And then you've got me down at the bottom. So let's talk about me. So I complain a lot. Most of you know I hate Maven with a passion. I still complain. I hate MongoDB. And no, I really don't ever stop complaining. So I figured, it's pretty scary. So why don't I go with what I know, right? Like, this is what most people know me for, the monitoring sucks thing. So the problem is it got superseded under me. I'm like, well, shit. What am I gonna talk about? But really, let's talk just for a few minutes about the whole monitoring love things. Matthias, I guess it was 2011 when I wrote the whole monitoring sucks blog post. Sean Porter's over there, and you can blame him for the inspiration. Things have gotten better. Who would agree that things have gotten better in the last 2 years in relation to this space? See, this is awesome, right? So when Ulf said that we're going to replace it with monitoring love, he wasn't that far off. Graphite, StatsD, Riemann. We have had some advanced things. They have all contributed to democratization, if that's even the right word, of what was before the domain of high-end operation shops. Anybody can shove things to Etsy. If you're not lucky enough to have threads in your programming language, you can shove data into StatsD, and you can shove data into StatsD and have it go to Graphite. If you're using an actual language with threads, you don't really need StatsD, right? But Graphite has given you. I'm going to take a few jabs here and there because that's my defense mechanism, humor. So, and self-deprecation. You're going to get a lot of that. So. I'm really sad now. So, those tools have contributed more in the last 2 years than anything. Like graphite and StatsD are the biggest one. Something like Riemann has brought essentially event stream processing to the common man in exchange for learning a Lisp. So, which is not a bad thing, right? Like, everybody should know it. So things have gotten better. But what I really want to talk about, I think, is this is true of any industrial revolution, and essentially that's what we're going through in phases. As you automate or as you improve efficiency in one area, you expose inefficiencies in others, right? I mean, so monitoring is not a solved problem, but we've gotten some of the boring shit out of the way, and now we're starting to see more problems in other areas. So the premise of what I want to talk about is, as an operator and as an end user, where I see pain points and where I might hopefully inspire someone for tomorrow's hack day. So since I don't fit the first highlight, maybe I can hopefully help with the second one. So I've got a few areas I want to talk about. First off is security. This is an area where we have shamefully punted everything. What is our answer to securing Redis? Well, other than don't use Redis, but the answer to securing Redis is use S-tunnel. What? I mean, so what we have here is, I jumped ahead. We have been punting on the security concept for a while. I mean, seriously. Okay, I'm going to ask a question. Don't be embarrassed to raise your hand. How many people have turned on SSL no verify in their own code? Yeah, see, okay. Mark's raising double hands back there. Our model of security has generally been around who has access to what we're showing, right? Like, oh, we secure our graphite install because we don't want anybody poking around and looking at data and shit. But security is a bigger problem. So before we get into why security is important, although it should be pretty obvious, let's talk about automation. And I know John Oswald is going to be very, yay, he's getting it right, I hope. But automation is awesome. I think everybody would agree that, again, automation and the efficiencies that we have around that have made everything better. We tend to go a little overboard. That's just our nature. And we want to say automate everything. And sometimes we really get crazy and say, well, since we've automated how we provision our servers, can we automate the reason for provisioning our, can we take, we've got all this data and can we do it? So this is what you're saying to me. So, you put your post up on Hacker News and you're like, yeah, man, I got this new email newsletter service, it's going to send you pictures of cheese every single day, like Gouda and, Swiss and all this crazy shit. Let's ignore for a minute the fact that, there's only so many cheeses in the world. But, so this is what you say is going to happen. I'm going to dynamically respond and grow. This is the holy grail. Here's what I hear. This is essentially what you're telling me, is that graphite says, ignoring the whole precision thing and the fact that any workload that can be auto-scaled is considered really a trivial workload and doesn't need to auto-scale. You're telling me that some random data point is coming to graphite and I'm going to have some system check that, and then I'm going to spend my own money based on that data. And Dr. Neal said this earlier, the data is not right. So so when it comes to security, I think what I want to say is, if we're looking at projects, Michael's here with the graphite projects, a lot of graphite folks here. When you're looking at things tomorrow that we can talk about for the hack day, I think security is a pretty good one, right? That's something we can focus on. So that was a pretty straightforward thing. The next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is retention. And we don't have a problem storing the data anymore. We've got OpenTSDB, Whisper, the old standby RRD, regardless of how much data it actually throws away in the process. These aren't the problems. The problems we have with retention is the shit we're putting into it. So telemetry is a really cool word, and you're going to hear it. You hear it in a lot of industries. Cliff used it. I first heard it used this way from Theo. Surprise, right? Everybody hears shit from Theo. Here's what. Again, we go overboard. We're let's collect all the metrics we can. Not only that, but like even the shit that we don't understand what it is. I mean, well, this is coming off of like procs, so we should collect that, right? So we grab that. Then we're like, well, maybe we can get what people are saying on Twitter, and we can get in this semantic analysis about, are things, how do people feel about us, and can we give it a shade of color? And then we get like, a spider farted in Finland and it screwed up my IOPS. Like, these are not, so we're throwing all of this crap into graphite. Like, we put a point in time marker in graphite, that's when that spider farted, and does that actually apply to anything? So this is what it brings to mind to me. We have this problem, we're hoarders, right? Like we might need that data someday. I might need that kitchen mitt from 1973 that was knitted by my grandmother's, cow. And then we start cargo culting this stuff, right? Like, how many people, we overuse the term cargo cult, I think, but it really is the accurate term for what it describes, and that is, not actually understanding why you're doing something. You just do it because you want some end result. So, let me see if this is going to work. Oh, by the way, so you're collecting all this shit and you're passing all this data around, and maybe you're on EC2 and you have, one interface. Yeah, think about all the extra overhead you're adding when you do that. So, having and collecting all this data is awesome. But I want to bring up a few, I guess what I would call real talk. You can't store it forever. Not even Boundary can store it forever. Not Librado can't store it forever. And they don't. Well, Cliff would be glad to take your money to store it forever, I'm sure, right, Cliff? Yeah. This second point is something that Theo brought up, and it is one of those blindingly simple things like consistent hashing that you realize when somebody says it. Oh, that's fucking obvious. You would likely need more data or more hardware than your actual production infrastructure to store all the metric data about your production infrastructure. Like, there's a diminishing returns thing there. So Jordan will appreciate the other one. In my estimation right now, logs are still likely your richest source of the data that you want. People log, as a developer's writing code, and even as I, you write a log line. Okay, so it's got data in it. These next two are similar to what Cliff said about folklore, and again to the cargo culting. Why are we collecting certain things? Ask why. Do you really need it? Because again, look at the first two things. You can't keep everything, and you can't use everything, and not everything has value. So ask why, and use science. It's an amazing thing, that science. And so instead of shaking your chicken bones over your graphs and doing a dance and praying to the rain gods, maybe you should put some math on it and see how that works out. So these are the questions I ask myself, and I think these are the most important questions. I'm willing to debate this, just not now. These are the questions I ask myself every time I sit down and decide on something. Is the system doing what it's supposed to do? And is the business being able to do what it's supposed to do? Because as much as we like to hem and haw about hipster ops and like I've got Graphite and I've got an OpenTSDB install and I'm doing all this crazy cool shit, the business really doesn't care. What the business cares about is doing businessy things, not you feeling like you've shown off to your peers that you have the latest and greatest technology. So the answers to these questions are different. Maybe like how many of you have seen I guess it's Brendan yelling into a server and watching that maybe you need to know about like spider farts in Finland. I don't know. Maybe it's a problem for you guys. But how you answer these questions determine what you really need to keep as your data and what is important. This is something that has come up several times already, and Matthias talked about this, and it's something that is a problem for me, I think. And so this is a graph. And this is the venerable Gothic graph that people are already bitching about. And you can see we've got some stuff here. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck was going on there. Like, I actually set that graph up, and I don't remember what it was supposed to do. So, maybe that's what happened. I don't know if that's where the problem was solved, or if maybe all of these are individual spider farts leading up to something else. I don't know. I don't know what this graph is doing, and I created it. This is actually a graph that is useful, and it's still a mess. Like, this is one of our internal graphs for one of our subsystems runtimes. We have these things, we call them monitors, horrible name because it's not the same thing we're talking about today. These are individual subsystems that pull cloud resources and cache the results. And this is how we kind of visualize which ones are running. So this is by customer and monitor type. So, customer 256, their server monitor where we pull their AWS account. And this is kind of how we visualize where things are running. But again, this is still horrible, right? Like, I have no idea how to visualize this stuff. So, the big thing for me is people are harping on Tufty and what was, Dr. Neal, what was the one, Tukey? Yeah, like, that was the first time I'd heard that name, and that is brilliant. Like, that particular visualization is much more important to me. How many individual stick figures with half of their body colored red and the other half green? Like, that kind of visualization doesn't tell me why customers can't get to the site. So that's a problem for me. I think that we need people who have experience in this area and I guess have come to, provided a visualization internally or a graph or something that has represented something efficiently. I want a collection of those. Like, that would be a great thing for someone to work on tomorrow, and I would love to sit in and listen, is, can we set up like the Logstash cookbook site? Like, this is a heat map. This is what it's good for. This is a tree map. This is what it's good for. This is the Tukey triangle thing, and this is what it's good for. And keep it simple, because I don't know these things. This is not my area of expertise. I didn't go to school for that, so I don't know. The other thing is, watch out, again, for the mud radios, the cargo culting. If someone tells you the best way to look at load average is to look at it in a time series graph or whatever, maybe that's not. Maybe that's not the best visualization. Maybe it's actually some sort of 3D representation. So this is the last one, and this is, I think, where I'm starting to overlap even more with when everyone else has said. Security, visualization, all the things that I talked about before. Security, we can mitigate it through firewalls, right? So, okay, not everybody's going to be able to talk to our graphite install, whatever. It's still important that we deal with the other aspects of security, like the authorization and the access to which parts of the graphite tree people can write to, and things like that. But this, how many people have heard this? Yeah, and we have some PagerDuty folks here, and you know the robot voice, right? So PagerDuty alert, all that good stuff. That's really the problem. PagerDuty won't shut the hell up, right? Like, my problem is not that this server is down, it's that PagerDuty won't stop telling me about it. This is the most, I don't know if this is going to be a controversial statement, but to me, this is the biggest problem in our industry and in our space right now. Alert fatigue, I think I got that phrase from you, but John, but it's essentially, this is the problem. And the reason that I see this as a problem is this alerting is the first human interaction that we have with our monitoring systems. Not the visualization, like maybe we use Nagios and we use check graphite, right? Like, so we're putting, but that's all done ahead. The next interaction, the big interaction we get from our monitoring systems is when we get an alert that something's broke. And that leads to burnout when you have too many of these alerts coming in. This is our problem. We think that one event should be one alert. Okay, I've got disk full on this server. Okay, disk full on this server. I've got, or maybe I've got load averages high on this server. Oh, and my JVM just ran out of memory on this same server. And these are all related, and we don't yet have, we still think that these are individual things that we should be told about. These are some things that I don't generally alert on. Memory usage, CPU use, and load average. Some people may say that's blaspheme. But you know why? Because I don't care. If I'm using all of my memory, most of my stack is Java, so I'm going to be using a lot of memory. CPU and load average, the reason I don't alert on those is because generally they are the result of something else, like intense garbage collection. Maybe those things, the reason I don't alert on load average specifically is because a lot of our systems do batch work, and I don't want to have to fucking account for every single batch interval that happens in terms of an alert. So like I said, these are the things I alert on. Is my JVM out of memory? I hope not. Latency between systems, things like connection pool failures. We still use MySQL in addition to React, so I'm concerned about, how's our connection pool looking? And really the basic one is stuff working, right? Like that is, going back to the other two things, that is the key metric. Is your stuff working? How you answer that is up to you. what's interesting is these data points here, or these things that you alert on, they could be represented sooner. Again, I said that our CPU usage had climbed, or our load average had climbed because maybe we had GC problems. The way I tend to decide what to alert on, outside of the is it working and whatnot, is what is the earliest possible indicator of the problem that's going to happen. So in this case, if, and don't alert on the following stuff. Dependencies are hard, and we still don't have a system, even any of the alerting systems I'm aware of don't really handle the concept of a dependency very well. So this is, I think the second part of the real talk is only alert on actionable things. You're going to save your sanity. Can you fix the load average? No. What are you going to do? Stop what's running on it? Well, no, because then it's not going to do its job. But maybe with the JVM you can bounce that process or whatever. So if you can't act on it right then to actually solve the problem, I don't alert on it. I try to alert on things that matter. And again, the thresholds are always changing. And this is where we need, I think, some advanced systems that can help us, the adaptive type situation where it starts to understand, I don't know if that's Bayesian or not, kind of thing, where you start to classify things. But so, really, we talk about burnout. Let's get smarter about the alerts. If someone has an idea tomorrow about a better alert, a way to do alerts, and some science and some math that we can apply to that, I'm all for it, because I want to do it. Because otherwise, we end up with this kind of situation with, like, my kids. Like, they know who PagerDuty is. And it freaks my wife out. So, actual conversation from Twitter. So, I have a few final thoughts. Just a brain dump. Roll-ups, event correlation. Roll-ups is something that Nagios makes painful without hacks. Let me write a file to temp and then track how many times I've done. No, Riemann does this really well. It's like built in. It's one of the most awesome things in the world about Riemann to me, is the keeping track of some minimal state in progress and then bundling up the alerts into one. It's something we can work on. Event correlation. Two words that you can actually translate and understand what they mean, but how does this event relate to this one? Is there a bigger picture? Again, there are dependencies to these systems and these alerts, and how do we calculate what is the final thing that we're talking about? Not just in alerting, but in monitoring, in graphing. Excuse me. And so again, Riemann, I'm a big Riemann fanboy, I guess you can see. Just some other things that I was researching. There's an Esper bolt for Storm, so if you've if you're familiar with what Storm is and what Esper is, there's actually a bolt for doing Esper-style queries with Storm data. Elasticsearch, Rashid is here. Can we start using something that was traditionally not meant for monitoring data and actually leverage some of the querying things that Elasticsearch has built in, about like getting histogram data back out and such. And just a few final things going into tomorrow. We like our JSON. Did I spell the precision right? I hope I did. We like our JSON, but it doesn't, to quote Theo, know what a number is. So we may have to start getting over the fact that JSON is the easiest transport for data and start looking at something like, God forbid, protobufs, or Avro or Thrift or any of these other serialization formats. So, I had a bad experience with protobufs in Python one time and React, and it was a scary mess. So I'm scared of it, but we may have to get to the point where if we want real accurate data, we can't use JSON as a serialization format. We have this abnormal fear of the JVM, and we shouldn't. Again, Riemann, Logstash, there are a lot of things that run on the JVM, and it's not Java. So JVM does not equal Java. Java, yes, is evil. The JVM, however, is not. And there are plenty of other things. Nagios isn't going anywhere. The question was asked earlier, how many people, was it you, John? How many people are still using Nagios? Yes, we all are. Well, for the most part, except for Cliff. He's using Boundary, to do Boundary. But, Nagios isn't going anywhere. Let's work with it for now until we get something that actually is going to really supersede it. And again, Sensu is awesome, and we've got, again, the ecosystem has gotten so much better, but we still have to cobble together certain functionality from other systems. And the last thing there is that each additional component creates management overhead. Again, as you add things to the stack, it increases the complexity, it reduces the reasonability of your system, and it ultimately costs money. You've got all these things glued together, and I'm a big fan of the Voltron approach to our monitoring process. But again, back to the hipster ops thing. Just because somebody added something doesn't mean you need to throw it out there in your environment, because it's got a cost impact, and even the basic impact of network saturation as you're starting to add more shit and push your data around. So I don't know if we had time for questions. I put this in here, but that's, catch me offline. That's what I have, and wow, I'm just really freaked out right now. So. Jason's not here. Oh, God. Freaking me out, man. No questions? Okay.
You're never going to get him again.
Oh, shit.
Can we stop this Java bigotry once and for all?
It was a joke. Can we keep up the Mongo bigotry, though?
Yes.
Look, in fairness, I hope there's no 10-gen folks here. It's a joke. I actually just started learning Java earlier this year to write some log4j stuff, and I can appreciate my previous complaints more. But you know what? So before I was talking from a point of no actual experience. No. I was just bitching, right, to be cool. Java actually, Java util concurrent is the coolest thing on the planet. Like, if you need real concurrency and you really need to understand, Java is not bad. You're not going. You have more experience in the world with people learning Java. But again, there are alternative languages on the JVM that are much easier to get into, and that can be a stepping stone. Like for me, using JRuby initially and learning how to leverage actual Java ecosystem type stuff, packages inside of JRuby, I started to understand or appreciate more about Java, and then eventually started writing a little bit of Java here and there. So yes, Cliff, we can stop the Java bigotry, man. I'm going to start being big. Can we start Erlang? Let's start complaining about Erlang.
I'll link that.
All right, thanks everyone.